All right, good morning, everybody. My name is Lauren Reeves with the National Weather Service, and here's our first special weather briefing on Tropical Storm Zeta for today, Tuesday, October 27th at noon. All right, so a little situation overview. What we're dealing with is Tropical Storm Zeta. As of now, just crossed the Yucatan Peninsula earlier this morning, and Tropical Storm Zeta is expected to strengthen into a Category 1 hurricane as it continues to move off of the Yucatan and into the Gulf. And so, as you can see here, the graphic from the National Hurricane Center has a storm strengthening into a hurricane before making landfall near the Louisiana coast. And then the latest forecast after that tracks data across our area early on Thursday morning. And so as you can see a little bit further back here in between 7 p.m. Wednesday and 7 a.m. Thursday, the storm should be somewhere over Alabama. And so at that point, Wednesday night, we could see some of the heavier rain move in and some rain bands move into our area late overnight. So we'll just take a quick look at our threat levels and we'll go back and talk about these in a little bit better detail. Overall, we do have an increasing threats for wind. Overall, we do have some wind gusts in the forecast around 25 to 40 miles per hour. If we shift over to rainfall and flash flooding, we're expecting about 2 to 4 inches north of the I-85 corridor, along and north, I should say, with possible amounts of 4 to 6 inches up in the northeastern mountains. Then if we shift to river flooding, with all of that rainfall, we do expect to have some river flooding, although we have the highest risk with those creeks and smaller streams along and north of the I-85 corridor. And then as far as tornadoes go, we do have an isolated threat there, generally across west central Georgia, looking at late Wednesday night into early Thursday morning. So the left-hand side here just shows a quick satellite loop of Zeta as of this morning. So the main story for north and central Georgia will be increasing moisture from Zeta will be moving into our area on Wednesday before the storm crosses the area with a lifting warm front. So meaning that early on Wednesday and Wednesday afternoon, we could see some showers, and mainly should just be showers as that warm front lifts across our area. But then we expect Zeta to move into the area late Wednesday into Thursday, particularly across west central Georgia, and that's where we'll start to see some of those additional showers and rain bands start to move in. Overall, we are expecting rainfall to become a little bit more widespread once we get late into overnight Wednesday and into very early Thursday morning as Zeta starts to cross. So this is just one model solution. Just keep that in mind as you're watching it, and I'll let it play here a few times. It's not a forecast of what's actually going to happen, and so no need to pay attention to the times here at the top or the specific model. But just one example so you can see the progression of the storm. Like I mentioned, what you see first is the lifting warm front and that rainfall associated with that moving across the area early on Wednesday, as well as some rainfall Wednesday afternoon before late Wednesday into early Thursday. We see Zeta crossing the area. So after making landfall, we're expecting a really quick acceleration from the storm to the northeast as it shoots across Alabama, Georgia, and further northeast of us. And with the current track, and as you can see, the yellows and reds are showing the potential for some heavier rainfall, our heaviest rain access will be along and north of the I-85 corridor. So now taking a look at our rainfall potential. So where's the rain going to fall and how much are we expecting? So this graphic here is showing our flash flood watch. We had already previously issued it, but we have expanded it as of this morning. And so that's in effect from Wednesday morning through Thursday evening. So pretty much capturing all day on Wednesday before we experience our heaviest rainfall, later on Wednesday and into Thursday, and then during the day on Thursday further east. Overall, like I mentioned, we expanded it to include some more of those counties north of I-20 that are still could see some of the more significant rainfall. But overall, especially in the flash flood watch area, we are looking at 2 to 4 inches possible. It's along and north of the I-85 corridor, with some locally higher amounts possible across the northeastern mountains. And overall, the models are pretty consistent with keeping that heaviest rain access along and north of I-85. So that's the main area where we're looking at. So now just showing our overall storm total rainfall. This is looking at Wednesday morning through Friday morning, so the whole life of the storm, including that lifting warm front. And overall, we're looking at about 2 to 4 inches along and north of I-20. Along and north of I-85. And then if you look across the mountains, you'll see a little bit darker shadings of orange here. That's showing where those 4 to 6 inches could be possible. So overall, though, 2 to 4 inches widespread with some locally higher amounts, generally across the northeast mountains. So now taking a look at our excessive rainfall, this graphic here in the upper left-hand corner is looking at late Wednesday through early Thursday morning. And then the graphic just under it to the right is looking at Thursday during the day. So the main thing to note here is with all the rainfall we just talked about, we do have some areas that we have a marginal risk, which is the green, and a slight risk of excessive rainfall. And all that's saying is that the rainfall could lead to flash flooding. So the areas outlined in this green color and this orange color have the highest risk late Wednesday into early Thursday of flash flooding, shifting across portions of northeastern Georgia for Thursday. So we just want to take a look at the potential for some river flooding as well. So this graphic on the left is showing our daily average stream flow as of yesterday, which is Monday. And the main thing to note here is in the red circles where we're expecting our heaviest rainfall axis. And so if you look at the bottom right here, these greens and light blues and dark blues are pretty much just showing us that we have above normal to much above normal stream flow conditions already. So what that's saying is that with our additional rainfall that we're expecting in the flash flood watch area, we could easily get flash flooding. And so one positive note is the storm will be moving pretty quickly, but overall we're still expecting those 2 to 4 inches along and north of the 85 corridor where we already have the antecedent conditions of high stream flow. So that being said, we could see minor river flooding, and that's probably expected at this point with our rainfall amounts, with some isolated moderate river flooding possible. And so the main areas we're looking at for that would be both the Tennessee basins, the Coosa Basin, Tallapoosa, much of the Chattahoochee, and then the northern Flint, Okmulgee, and Oconee. And so that's those areas pretty much within that flash flood watch. And most important, probably the most important thing to say on this slide is the falling leaves that'll be on the ground, so the ones that have already fallen because it's fall, plus the winds that'll be blown down by the winds, which we'll take a look at in a little bit, that'll lead to additional flooding due to clogged storm drains. So just because it may be fine now, there's not much going on with the leaves, not many leaves on the ground now. When we start to see the stronger winds with the storm, we will start to see those leaves falling, and then combining that with the rainfall could clog the storm's drains easily. So that pretty much means that areas that may not normally see flooding could even see flooding in this case as well. So now we'll shift a little bit to take a look at the wind threat. So this back graphic in the upper left corner here are the most likely arrival time of tropical storm force winds. The main thing to take away from this graphic is that west central Georgia has about a 20 to 30% chance of seeing these sustained tropical storm force winds. And that would be anytime from late Wednesday / overnight Wednesday into early Thursday. And so this front graphic here shows our forecast sustained winds. And so we're looking anywhere from 20 to 30 mile per hour sustained winds will be possible. And again, that timing would be late Wednesday, overnight Wednesday into early Thursday for west central Georgia, expanding across the rest of the area early Thursday through Thursday during the day, shifting further east. And that does include the Atlanta metro. So now if we talk about wind gusts, here's our graphic forecast for Thursday morning and afternoon. Like I mentioned before, sustained winds 20 to 30 miles per hour will be possible, but we could see some wind gusts in the 25 to 40 mile per hour range, which will bring down trees and power lines. So like I said before, generally starting across west central Georgia with the highest chances for gusts before spreading northeast across the rest of the area as Zeta crosses. But the main thing, like I mentioned before, is that combination of the saturated soils from the heavy rains that we'll get in combination with these strong winds will allow the trees and power lines to fall very easily. So that's something to look out for. In addition, we could see some higher gusts would be possible in any stronger storms or within any heavier rain bands, and in addition across the higher elevations. So that's just something to keep an eye out for. So now we're going to shift and talk about our severe weather threat and our tornado potential. So first we're going to take a look at Wednesday through early Thursday morning. So across our areas, you can see generally just looking at general thunder, as we have a very low threat of severe storms during the day on Wednesday. And then that threat will start to creep up as we get into late Wednesday into early Thursday AM, as we see those rain bands start to move into the area and then Zeta cross as well. So the main thing to point out here is that there is a marginal risk for severe storms that pretty much bumps up to our area for Wednesday, late Wednesday into early Thursday. But as we shift into Thursday, that focus will shift as well. And here we're looking at pretty much some portions of central Georgia here. So this ends up being the front right quadrant of the storm, where we do end up seeing those tornadoes, the brief spin up tornadoes that we can get in tropical storms. And so that's what this threat here is looking at. And so this is looking at Thursday early morning through Thursday afternoon across our area. We could see the threat generally in central Georgia for those brief spin up tornadoes. And again, that would be Thursday early morning through Thursday afternoon. So our key takeaways before we take any questions are two primary concerns with Tropical Storm Zeta are heavy rain and strong winds. As far as the heavy rain goes, we are seeing an axis of heavy rainfall across the area, looking at around the I-85 corridor and north. And so being that we're looking at late Wednesday into Thursday, that puts the potential for flash flooding overnight / in the early morning hours where it may still be dark. So that's something to keep an eye on. And as we looked at the strong winds and wind gusts, that in combination with our wet soils already will down trees and power lines. Plus, we do have that low end risk for a few tornadoes early Thursday morning, generally across central Georgia. So our overall confidence for this storm now, if I'd have to give a number to it, I'd probably put it about in between like a 3 or a 4. As you see down here, for our forecast confidence, and mainly that's due to a little bit of uncertainty in the rainfall amounts. As a storm is so quick moving, we would normally say that that could limit the potential for rainfall, but overall, between our antecedent conditions, 2 to 4 inches of rainfall will still cause flash flooding across our area, especially if the storm could slow down any. We'll just have to continue to monitor our rainfall amounts. Plus, as any changes happen for the NHC track, that could shift our wind gust potential and our severe threat potential. So those are two little caveats that we're looking at, but overall confidence is fairly high. Okay, so right after this, I'll take questions, but otherwise our next special webinar will be tomorrow morning at noon, and we have already posted these slides up to the web. Alrighty.